land of emperors, shoguns, ninjas, animes, Hello Kitty, and amazing toilets. But for some of us, no fish, soy, or pork, and for all of us, no sun for 11 days. Well, our first introduction to the Japanese culture wasn't exactly chopped liver, the Palace Hotel Tokyo. Beautiful lobby bar, a TV in the mirror. Talk about electronics, but they did have a wind-up clock there, and shades that open up at the press of a button. Whatever happened to pull chains? This is the view from our window during the day. Beautiful. The first day of our no fish, no soy, no sun tour started, guess where? A fish market. When the doors opened at 10 a.m., the biggest, busiest fish and seafood market in the world has already been bustling for over 6 hours. Between 3 to 7 a.m., the fish is delivered and the auctions begin. Fast and furious, fish flying, voices soaring, and then bam, it's all over but the cleanup. Of course, we didn't see any of that, but that's okay. The market is comprised of two distinct sections. The inner market is the licensed wholesale market where the auction and most of the fish processing takes place, and where close to 1,000 licensed wholesale dealers operate individual stalls. The outer market is a mixture of wholesale and retail shops selling everything from carrots to cookies, pumpkins to popcorns, and restaurants, many restaurants serving uber fresh sushi and sashimi and lots of garbage at the end. And did you ever wonder where C-3PO went when he retired? So then it's on to the Hama-Rikyu Gardens. Beautiful garden, that's the Big Macha over there, I think. That garden has served many purposes over the centuries. It was originally built as a feudal lord's Tokyo residence and duck hunting grounds during the Edo period, which is 1603 to 1867. But later served as a strolling garden and as an imperial detached palace before being opened to the public in its current form. This is a statue of Hachi, the Akita dog who spent 9 years every day waiting for his dead master to appear at the train station on his way home from work. So they became so enamored of this dog they made a statue of him. I just think the dog was totally confused. But you know, it's a nice tourist attraction. We enjoyed it. And of course, notice the umbrellas. And right near Hachi's statue is Shibuya Crossing. This is 7 streets come together and all the lights turn green at once. And everybody just does the Barnes dance. Remember the Barnes dance from New York City? Everybody just walks across and people just come here just to walk across and then cross back. Why would anybody do that? Of course we did it, but you know, we're tourists. So when you're in Japan, you learn how to do a lot of crafty things, especially if you're a tourist. So here we learned how to blow glass. And there's Barbara giving it a shot. And you know, sometimes came out not so good, like that. And sometimes it came out better, like this. And here's Barbara looking at her small ball. And here's a picture of a finished product on a tree in front of my house. It makes dingle dingle when the wind blows. The rest of the day we just rode around Tokyo seeing some of the sights on a rainy afternoon, so nothing really to take pictures of, but here's some pictures that we did not use. Very pretty. I think we're lost. Nice wedding couple. Interesting headband, and there's another wedding couple. I was just making sure you were still awake. The next day was a leisure day, so we took ourselves across the street to the East Gardens of the Imperial Palace, or the remains of the Imperial Palace, actually. And I didn't take my drone. Wasn't I lucky? They had a lot of big rock walls and things, remains of foundations, and this was the barracks for the army that guarded the place. Some more foundation walls, and a moat to keep out the riffraff. And then, adventurers as we were, we took the subway all by ourselves, where they have these wonderful little machines that put plastic wrap around your umbrella. And there we are, sitting comfortably on the train. The train took us to the Shinjuku district, which is kind of busy, and an entertainment show called the Robot Restaurant, which is, I don't even know if it's a restaurant, and you just have to watch.
Okay, we're at the entrance.
Just watch this.
For the robot show. They don't like any unpainted surfaces here.
What was all of that? I don't know. All I know is that we were glad when it was over. This is out of sequence somewhat, but our Tokyo guide told us we must go to this mall where they have these hanging pumpkins, yes, that's them, and a 2-story waterfall, which turned out to be, after looking around for 15 to 20 minutes, a video waterfall. And nobody even took pictures of it, that's how bad it was. But we did have lunch at this place, which was mediocre. The next morning, experienced travelers as we were, we cabbed it over to Tokyo Station all by ourselves, where we actually found the right track, the right train, and thank God, the right car, and traveled to Kanazawa. Very comfortable seats, as you can see, just gorgeous. And where do you see the bathrooms?
In the train, has a little place to change your baby, of course a self-flushing toilet with all kinds of buttons, and a little place to sit your toddler. But if you go around to the other bathroom, I want to show you, this is hysterical, to see the sink. If you look here, you put your hand and you get bubbles, and you move your hand over and you get water, and you move your hand over and it dries through. Isn't that amazing? When is the United States going to join the 21st century?
So we arrived at this beautiful Kanazawa station, and here's a nice little billboard showing the name, where we went to this museum. It's a small museum, just kind of on the way to these gardens. They have things like this, and they have this sword and read, when it comes up, the inscription on the sword underneath. First up was the Kenrokan Gardens, claimed to be in the top 3 most beautiful gardens in Japan. Its beauty was maintained from generation to generation by the ruling Maeda family, Kaga clan, from feudal times. The name Kenrokan means having 6 factors, which were utilized to bring out the perfect landscape of a garden. Expansiveness, peacefulness, artifice, antiquity, water sources, and fantastic views. So this is Kanazawa Castle, which began in the mid-1500s. It was built many times after fires. And its claim to fame is the gray roof tiles, which is a very small layer of lead. So don't drink the water. So look at these guys. Terrific, huh? Drum camp. Look at the little guy in the front row. There he is. This is our one of our Kyoto guides, Kumiko, holding the ubiquitous umbrella and taking us to the Nagamachi Samurai District, which is located at the castle's base. There's the Godburger, actually, my mistake, and is where the samurai and their families resided. The area retains its historical atmosphere, with many preserved residences surrounded by traditional earthen walls. Narrow lanes and canals wind through the neighborhood, making it very picturesque, as you can see. So after a short bus ride, we arrived at the Kyotai, a Japanese inn with an outdoor bath. And this is some of the pictures of our rooms. This is our room. That became the bedroom later. Little things for the bedding, and the shower, which faced the outdoors, and the beautiful outdoor bath. And there's another picture of a little patio. Just wonderful. Of course, we dressed for dinner. There's our dress. And there we are at dinner. Well, we had a wonderful serving of a lot of stuff, which you had to be told what it was. But in general, very good and very well presented. Beautiful box. Look at that mushroom. You ever see a mushroom like that? I'm not sure what this is. Some sort of soy. This is sake. Oh, it's pretty good sake. And there's your bedroom. So the next morning, bright and early, Barbara and I got up and took a hike. And I don't know what this building is, but it's maybe a fancy outhouse. I don't know. I couldn't read it.
It's okay. We're very worried. We're very worried because we're here early in the morning. We're lost. It's really deserted. There's nobody here, and we're in the wilds of Japan. It's just desolate. No one around for miles and miles. Oh, wait! There's somebody. We're saved.
So Kanazawa is an artist's colony, basically. A lot of artisans are there. So this is the house of Masaru Nishimura, a wonderful man who showed us how he made his little lacquer boxes and tea sets from scratch. Just incredible artistic ability this man has. Some of the things he had displayed in his house were on the right, a 400-year-old lunchbox. Amazing. And a gong about the same age, and a set of old drums. This was such a low-end trip that we had to make our own lunches. So here we are making soba noodles, and that's the finished product, which we did eat. It was fairly good. And then we went to visit the workshop of a master swordsmith. This guy was incredible. He only makes about 10 to 12 of these a year. And this is some views of the forge and how he makes them. And he was a great guy. We just loved watching him. I said he should be in a commercial for soap because his hands were so dirty.
What is it, clay? The real ingredients are a secret.
松田さん、その今亀の方で塗られたその泥はその液体は何でしょうかというご質問でした。粘土。
Well, this is just a picture of the process by which he makes these swords. He starts out with the scrap iron, which he gets himself from wherever he gets it. He makes little blocks out of it, keeps folding them over and making them denser and denser until you get the little brick on the lower left, from which he makes the finished sword. It takes him a while, but that's what he makes it from. Here Barbara is making sure that this is really a kosher sword. And while we were at the swordsmith, Sharon and Amy went to a studio where they learned how to do silk screening. And they came up with a beautiful result, as you can see. Oh, by now, the experienced travelers we are, we took the train to Kyoto. And just to show you how clean this country is, look at the condition of those garbage cans. Just gorgeous. Now, before we got to our hotel, we took a tour, and this is where we stopped. This is where we had a traditional Buddhist vegetarian lunch. Nice temple, beautiful sand gardens. Now, unfortunately, we had to have lunch watched over by this fella. I don't know who he is, but really mean. He was so mean that if you were a bad little Buddhist student, you had to write, "I will not talk in class," 500 times on the blackboard. Just like that. See, note Amy looking at the food very suspiciously. And Barbara and I don't have any food yet, so far we're happy.
150 years.
But the gardens were really very beautiful. You see a lot of people come to see them. It's just wasn't quite the season for the leaves turning yet, so I can imagine how gorgeous that would look. Then, carefully following the very detailed signs, we made our way to the bamboo forest. Very, very pretty. Just bamboo, 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 as far as you could see. Nice picture-perfect postcard view on top. After that, we checked in to the ultra-fancy, over-the-top, with prices to match Ritz-Carlton in Kyoto, with over 400 works of art, fancy electronics in the room, including the bathroom, and even an automatic tea machine for the ultra-lazy. We had the cheap room with a city view. The next morning we're off to Kinkajuki Temple, better known in English as the Temple of the Golden Pavilion. This icon of Kyoto rises above a quiet reflecting pond, shimmering in its layers of gold leaf regardless of the weather. In a recurring theme, it was demolished by fire in 1467 Rebuilt 10 years later, only to be the victim of arson by a deranged novice monk in 1950. And that is one tree. Another thing you find at all these Buddhist sites are Lucky Charms that you can buy, and you can pay as much as you want depending on the size of the Lucky Charm or candle, whatever. And if you don't need them anymore, you can put them in a collection box. And you should use the toilet finally also. Next was Saihoji, the Moss Temple. Beautiful moss, where we first participated in Shakyo, which is copying sutra or printed characters, for a while, and then listened to chanting, which I later deciphered the meaning of. Listen. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo, catch a tiger by the toe. If he hollers, let him go. My mother says to pick this one. Out goes Y-O-U, red, white, and blue. Amen. I think that probably was very politically incorrect, so don't show this to any Buddhists, okay? That evening we had dinner at the Ritz-Carlton, and here's a couple of the dishes, a couple of pasta dishes, both of which were made out of a single strand of spaghetti a mile long. Perfect. And some ravioli, very pretty. And then there was this dessert. What is it? I don't know. Very frou-frou though. And while we're on the subject, this was the best French toast we ever ate. And this was a pancake, a thing on the left. That's what their pancake is. They didn't do so well in the eggs, though. And to continue the food theme, after breakfast, we went to the Cooking Sun Cooking School, where these two young ladies, that's one of them, and here comes the other one, they taught us how to cook a Japanese meal. It was very nice. We had a good time. And we used all kinds of techniques, like rolling. And this looks like chicken. Yeah, we made chicken. And tempura. That was tempura. And this is the Japanese cure for hot flashes.
What is this?
Paul's working real hard at that one. And that's some unidentified vegetable. And this is what we ended up with at the end. It was very nice. And we all sat down to have a nice meal. It was actually a very good meal. Then we had some free time, so of course, what do you do? Shopping. This is kind of an outdoor arcade. This we came across as a Japanese multi-level parking lot. You just have to watch this. It's kind of interesting. It goes down and it stops the car, and the car just moves over and the exit. And then...
Oh, there's the exit on the right. That's the exit.
Bye-bye.
Over there.
There
Is
he
that
goes.
cool or what?
We ended up at
Yeah.
the Teramachi Street Shopping Arcade, kind of two buildings, and there's a roof put between them, so I end up with an arcade. This is the Pachinko Palace that we found there. There's Barbara sitting on. It's very noisy, very smoky. And here's a video of one. You listen. Here's some of the more interesting stores that we saw there. Fake guns, what they were. Psycho Bunny. Crazy. And I think, I'm not sure, but I think this was a crab store. Then we went to the Fushimi Inari Taisha Shrine, built to honor Inari, the god of rice. Very important god, you would think, in Japan. So here we are, the intrepid group. And there's the fox with the bib. I don't know what the deal was that. This is the map that we had to follow, you hope. Very clear. And you had to go the right way, of course. And then you had to make the right turn. See that? And you also had to use a toilet finally. Again. Oh, had to make sure you didn't use the water for anything else other than ritual. Here's a little water ladle they had. And here's another fox with a bib. I can never figure this guy out. This shrine's claim to fame are the gates, and here they are, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of gates taking you up. The Bill Gates, the V Gates, all kinds of gates. And you get a nice view at the top. And you have to make sure you don't get lost in the shrines. They're very complicated there. And we finally found our way back through the street. Next is the next day, and I went to Nara Park, which is just a pretty park between some temples. And here's a sign that shows you what the deer can do to you. It's full of deer all over the place. They should have had a sign, though, warning the deer what people could do to them. You know, they're very kind of aggressive, a little aggressive looking when they're looking for food. They're used to people. And they're kind of cute, but after a while you realize with all this rain, you're just walking around in liquefied deer shit. This is Todaiji Temple. Beautiful big temple. Until 1998, it was the largest wooden building in the world. Lately been surpassed by a baseball stadium in Japan. And after this picture was taken, Judy went ahead by herself and got lost for about 15 minutes. Paul was frantic, but we eventually found her. It was really what? Even the statues had rain gear on them. Amazing. Inside, this is the largest bronze Buddha in the world. It was cast in 8 sections over 3 years. The completed statue measures 49 feet, and it's making nearly bankrupted the country and depleted Japan of every last ounce of bronze. The story goes that if you can crawl through this hole, which is the same size as the Buddha's nostril, it'll guarantee enlightenment in your next life. She said a little while to go yet, but great. This is a very pretty temple. I forgot the name of it. I don't know why we actually went up these stairs to see, except that there was a bell up top.
Where do I hit it? She's
Just,
going to
you
ring
just
the
push it
bell.
forward. The bell's up above. You gotta give it harder. There you go.
I told her she could ring my bell
Okay,
anytime she
very
wants.
good. Very good.
Okay.
Ring that bell.
And another miserable rainy view up the top, and a picture of a male chicken. Another one of those deer, looks very content, and just a beautiful root system of a tree. I don't know why I took this, I just thought it was really nice. Then lunch at a local restaurant, very good. And then it was off to the Kasuga Taisha Shrine. Here the big thing were these lanterns, thousands of lanterns, which actually people pay for, and you can spend thousands of dollars to get nice ones like this to pray at. And just in case you couldn't be there at night, they had this mirrored room where you could simulate what it would be like to be there at night. Isn't that thoughtful? Beautiful. Our final stop was Sasasuri-an, beautiful, what they call a rice terrace villa, where Mr. Tetsui Matsubayashi, who was a monk, restored a approximately 200-year-old farmhouse into a Japanese inn. These obviously are not pictures that I took. These are from the brochure, and you'll see why later. This is a close-up of the main house, where there were actually 2.5 bedrooms. You could get a whole family in there with children. And this is the view from above, looking down. The roof is just made with no nails, just rope and wood. Here's Mr. Matsubayashi. He was there with his whole family, and they took care of us really almost like family. That we felt very well taken care of. Now this is what the view from the main room should have looked like, but this is what it looked like all the time, with raindrops coming down all the time. This is the main room of the farmhouse where we had our dinners, and this is us having a little snack and some wine as we came in. It's just a beautiful room. I can't even convey how nice it was in these pictures, but you'll see some of them. Here's the roof. It's very high, just rope and wood. It had cost them as much as a house to build. Some beautiful bonsai, many other things. And here we are sitting down to our dinner, which was cooked by this gentleman who was straight out of Central Casting. I I don't know his name, but he is actually a one-star Michelin chef. Came with his own set of knives on a canvas that rolled out to like 6 feet wide. And he could carve up food. Look at this. What artistry of food. And just gorgeous. I don't... There's some more. And right outside our window, we had a fireworks show. It seems there was a festival going on in the village down below. And they had a wonderful show for a small village. It was a great show.
Are you taking a video?
Well, as you may have heard, there was a typhoon in the area coming. And it rained all day. So, lunchtime, Mr. Matsubayashi took us down to the village to have lunch. Was our outing for the day. You can see how winding the roads are, and it's just raining the whole day.
This is the river we're driving past. Very, very swift coming from the
And then coming back from lunch, you could see
typhoon.
the river, how swollen it was and how brown, and how rapidly it was flowing. It was really a little scary. Well, that afternoon it was more and more rain, so we had nothing to do except read and sit around. We didn't have cards, so some of us did something else. We took baths in their little round tubs. Isn't that cute? Well, as you also may have heard, the typhoon kept getting closer and the rain kept getting harder, so they determined we had to evacuate, as everyone else in the town had to evacuate. So they gave us a quick but nice dinner and drove us down to the motel in town, which 1 star would have been generous. So the next morning it was back to the train station, and always being careful not to roll our luggage over people's feet or knock them onto the train tracks. We took the bullet train back to Tokyo and the Palace Hotel. Our last day was at leisure, so we did some shopping, and there's an escalator with a nicely dressed woman. And then we ended up, all of us, at the Tokyo Skytree, which is about a 1,400-foot tower, an observation tower. So we made sure not to get ripped off at this place. And we made sure we took the correct elevator, not the one that was out of bounds. And this, of course, is going down, but it looked the opposite going up. You get the idea. This being the nicest day we had, it was nice to get a good view out from up there. And here's the intrepid travelers on our last day, watching the sunset next to Mount Fuji in the distance. How nice. Sayonara.